Akamba mweyaseo, amba ito mweyaseo, onanye nde moseo, ke kamba chakwa nete cha mokamba kivindio. Just spoken Kikamba. I like the way you people are giving me feedback. I've been asked by a lot of people to talk about a lot of past, and I'm organizing myself. Today's turn, I'm going to talk about Paul Ngei. Kindly be patient for the person whom you have indicated in your comment section. Of course, I will not answer all of you because some of the people you may have asked, I may not have sufficient information. But if I know good information about somebody, then that person will be on the line next. Today we are going to talk about Paul Ngei. Many of you may not know, but Paul Ngei's grandfather was called Masaku. Masaku. And when the settlers came and reached Machakos, they met the chief there was called Masaku. That chief was Paul Ngei's grandfather. So the town Machakos is named after Paul Ngei's grandfather. Before we move away from Paul Ngei's grandfather, because he's a unique grandfather, sio kama yako na yangu. Paul Ngei's grandfather can be equated to the biblical Enoch. If you went to Machakos today and asked where he was buried, you'll be told that he just disappeared. Nobody knows where he went. He just disappeared that way, in a similar manner to Enoch of the Bible. Lastly, about Machakos town. Do you know that the initial capital of our country was Mombasa? Then it was moved temporarily to Machakos town. Then it was moved to Nairobi. So Nairobi is the third capital. Just like our country used to be called British East Africa, then it was called Kenya Colony, and now it is called Republic of Kenya. There were plans to move the capital to Isiolo. You know, land and everything in Nairobi is expensive. If you get speed trains, you can have the capital in Isiolo, and every morning you rush there, and it becomes even cheaper. And Isiolo, as you can know, it is now becoming an international town because of Lapset. We were talking about Paul Ngei. Paul Ngei, when he was young, a young man, he joined the King's African Rifles. And he served there for a short time, which I believe is 4 years. After serving the Queen for 4 years, he went back to civilian life. When going back to civilian life, he joined politics. When he joined politics, he joins Kenya Africa Union. Kenya Africa Union later broke into two after these people came out of jail, and one arm was KADU and the other arm was KANU. So he joined Kenya African Union, KAU, and is among those people who were jailed with Jomo Kenyatta. He was jailed at Lokitang with Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta, because these others were young men, they would go to farm, they would go to do other work. They looked for the easiest job that they would give Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. So Jomo Kenyatta was made a cook. He is the one who used to prepare food for them. But he was a terrible cook. Anapika ugali mbichi. It is on this strength that one time the prisoners were not happy, and Kariuki Chotara offered himself to kill Jomo Kenyatta. Much on Kariuki Chotara is contained in my earlier recordings about Kariuki Chotara. But I'll say in passing that Kariuki Chotara was given the name Chotara because there were two freedom fighters who were both called Kariuki. But Kariuki Chotara was light-skinned, mweupe. Not albino, but light-skinned. So they said anakaa kama Chotara. But watch the tape on Kariuki Chotara. So they were in prison. Kenyatta was a very poor cook. And there's another time in Lokitang when a Mzungu prison warder took a whip and wanted to whip Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Before he could whip Jomo Kenyatta, Paul Ngei got the whip, got hold of it, and told that Mzungu, huoni huyu ni mzee ni kama babako. And the Mzungu said, but he has done this and that. He said, next time mzee akifanya makosa, instead of whipping him, whip me. Now, hii watu wamezaliwa this millennium, because this is 2023. Those who are 23 years today, ukisikia kitu kama hiyo, they'll say, this is a fiction. Those days, in today's time, a prison warder wanted, first of all, hakuna kuchapa, it is not legal, but during my time, my age mates who joined prison, hata ulikuwa na sentence, unasema umefungwa sijui miaka ngapi na viboko 6. But then there was those vibokos, those days, my time, ukifungwa na viboko 6, it would be divided. Say you are jailed for, and then your jail time inagawanywa mara 6. Then siku hiyo unapimwa wewe si mgonjwa, wewe sio nini, unakula vizuri. Yule mtu wa kuchapa viboko pia na nini, unaenda unatandikwa kiboko moja until unakaa ni kama boil iko kwa makalio yako, because ukikaa unakaa umegeuka hivi. So those of my age, those who are millennials watashangaa kusikia ya kwamba prison alikuwa na chapa. Well, today wakiwa na chapo inafichwa because IPOA na other things are there. Lakini during my time kuna kuchapo ile ya sentencing na kuna kuchapo ile misbehaving. I want to talk about just supposing anybody wants to beat me up, mzee wa miaka over 60, and a young boy is there. And let's say perhaps the legal aspect allows that person to beat me. Vijana wa siku hizi utachukua hiyo kiboko utamchapa ile mbaya sana. Utachapa huyo. Kwa nini unachapa mzee na ni kama babangu, ni kama baba yetu? But those days, mzee my age over 60, unakutana na kindergarten mzungu, you remove your kofia na unamuinamia kidogo na sababu wacha bwana apite. So I'm explaining why Paul Ngei did not take that whip and beat that person. First of all, he was a prison officer. Second, he was a mzungu. For an African kuchukua kiboko achape mzungu, it was worse than murdering an African. So they became very close. Jomo Kenyatta felt safe. I mean, not only felt safe, but he became forever gratitude. Alimshukuru sana. Kizungu ilikuja na meli. So he was grateful to that Paul Ngei. And then you may have, I have another record here. I've already recorded of Mama Ngina being in committee with my maternal grandmother. You can watch it later. Now, those days Langata was not there. And Mama Ngina being in committee, the only person who could come and visit Mzee Jomo Kenyatta the way prisoners are visited was Margaret Kenyatta. Margaret Kenyatta used to visit the father at Lokitang. Now, whenever she used to visit, you know, a young girl and a young boy, there is one day Jomo Kenyatta confiscated a letter from Paul Ngei, a love letter between Margaret Kenyatta and Paul Ngei. Huyu Paul Ngei alikuwa anapenda daughters of his colleagues, but we'll come to that. Ndio sasa mkoko naalika nyuki. So from there, they were released. Jomo Kenyatta became the leader of the country, but Paul Ngei formed a different political party. When these people came out of jail, some formed KANU, others formed KADU. But Paul Ngei formed a party called All Africa. No, it was called Africa People's Party, APP, Africa People Party. But people, because the jurisdiction was in Ukambani alone, because it won all the seats in Ukambani, or could I say most of the seats in Ukambani, people started nicknaming it Akamba People's Party, but it was called African People's Party. So hii siasa ya kusema Kenya kwisha na kuzimia did not start today. You see the people from the other side, you call them Kenya kwisha, and the people from that side, they call you umezimia na azimio. So those things did not start today. But he started a political party called African People's Party, and people used to nickname it as Akamba People's Party. Kenya became independent. He absolved his party and joined KANU. And because of the incident in prison, he became so close to Jomo Kenyatta. That is when he used to mess a lot. There are so many funny things he used to do that no other person could do. And that is when he was nicknamed that he was a person of 9 lives. That one, of course, is from cats. You know, cats, they say they have 9 lives. So Paul Ngei was said to be a man of 9 lives. I remember as a minister for, was it cooperative? He had a case there. He was later became a minister for agriculture. Akakuwa na maneno na National Cereals and Produce Board. By then, National Cereals and Produce Board used to be called Maize and Cereals Produce Board. Jomo Kenyatta intervened. There was another time in 1974. You know those days when you committed an election offense, you would be barred for 5 years from contesting a political seat. Now, 5 years from the day you are convicted. Supposing the elections are held in 1974, you continue with the case ends in 1975, it means you have 5 years, which means up to 1980 is when you'll be eligible. And the elections were held in 1979, so it means you're going to be in the next election. Paul Ngei was found guilty of an election offense, and he was barred from contesting for the next election. Jomo Kenyatta hurriedly convened a parliamentary meeting where a law was passed very fast before the Kangundo elections were held. The laws were passed very fast, and Paul Ngei was, not Paul Ngei, the law now said the president can forgive anybody for, if you are convicted of an election offense, the president can forgive you. So the law was passed, and hurriedly the president consented it, and he forgave Paul Ngei. And Paul Ngei went back to contest and won the seat. Paul Ngei, as I said, alikuwa anapenda daughters of his colleagues. If you ask me, I do believe that Paul Ngei murdered a military officer. But you see, it was during Jomo Kenyatta's time. What happened was this. Today, female army officers are allowed to be married. Those days, we used to have something called Women Service Corps. And there was a rumor, you know me, I was a policeman. There was a rumor that they were being called government supply. Yeah. But women in the army used not to be allowed to be married, and if she became pregnant, she would apply to go and give birth, so she would be off service for, say, 3 years, and then when she comes back, she picks from wherever she was, but she was not allowed to be married. There was a minister called Ngei, Harvester Ngei from Meru. He had very many kids. One of his daughters was called Judy Ngei. She joined the military and rose to the rank of captain. So her name was Captain Julie Ngei. She was single. She had 2 lovers, or she had more than 2 lovers. One of her lovers was a major in the army. He was Major Musila. Was it Musila or Kisila? Hii neck-top computer yangu sio mbaya sana. So, Major Musila was her boyfriend, and so was Paul Ngei. One day she died, and because all evidence showed that Paul Ngei is the one who was responsible for the death, but he was close to the president, the fallback person was Musila. Musila was taken to court, but then the court passed that the wrong person had been convicted. Talking about Paul Ngei, you can talk the whole day. But Paul Ngei was also untouchable. There are so many things he did, but let me give just 1 or 2. There's a day he went to DT Dobby. DT Dobby used to deal with Mercedes. He went and looked for a very good Mercedes. He asked for the price, he was told the price. He was happy with the price. He was contented with the price. But he said, I cannot buy without a road test. He was given the keys. When he was given the keys, he went straight to the people who dealt with. You know, those days when the vehicle, before it was sold, it used to have a reddish number plate. Reddish, similar to the Envoy ambassador's vehicle, but it used to be written KG, meaning Kenya Garage. So he went there, he was given that Mercedes, it was written KG. He went and registered the new number plates in his name, and never went back to pay for the vehicle. So whenever DT Dobby would come to ask for the vehicle, the payment of the vehicle or the vehicle, he would tell them, go to State House, Jomo will pay you. Sasa nani angefikiria kwenda State House? But then Jomo died, and you know, people who are close to the system, and this is the problem that we are having with Africans. Currently, we have a Ruto in State House. Before him, we had Uhuru. Before him, we had Mwai Kibaki. Before Mwai, there was Moi, and there was Kenyatta. Matiang'i was very powerful. He could say anything. He would do anything because he felt he was protected by the president. Biwott would do anything, would say anything because he believed he was protected by Moi. Every government, you find somebody comes up. If you ask me who is doing that during Ruto's time, I tell you that Ruto was just sworn in 13 months ago. It's too early. So you find when somebody is the president, somebody crops up. Na anakuwa so powerful, he does anything he wants. Mutampeleka wapi? But they forget that the president will either die or another president will come. Now go around and see Matiang'i. Matiang'i anatetemekaga kushinda mimi. So this fellow took a lot of loans. He did whatever. Then when Kenyatta died, now it was Moi's time. He continued being a minister, yes, but you see, just like Mbio Koinange, when Kenyatta died and Moi was the president, Mbio Koinange was taken out of the office of the president, akapelekwa natural resources huko msituni. So that is when now you become like any other minister. But you do not become like any other minister. You become less than any other minister. So auctioneers came. They wanted to auction a lot of his things. But when they came, he pointed at that Mercedes and said, don't touch that one. Mambo yake huwezi. But who are auctioneers? I think the qualification for being an auctioneer, you have to be a thug. Eh? So these being thugs, they towed out the vehicle, went. And you see, the first thing that they were going to do was to go to do a search on the vehicle and find out if the vehicle was registered in his name. They found at the register of motor vehicle, then the vehicle was there, but it was black. And you see, the law says that they have to confiscate things belonging to you. Otherwise, if you have a vehicle and maybe it is registered in somebody else's, it brings a confusion. So it went that way. Paul Ngei became diabetic and his legs were cut. And towards the time when he died, he was a pathetic picture of what he was. A very poor man in a wheelchair. There's even a time he could go opposite the parliament and place there his wheelchair for the other MPs to see him and sympathize with him. And that in long, you know, we usually say that in short, but that in long is the story of the grandson of Masaku, who was born in Kilimakemwe in Ukambani. Kilimakemwe means the first hill. He was born in Kilimakemwe, but when he was young, his parents moved to Kangundo. One of the Kenyans with a very interesting history. And I can assure you, I've covered 3/4 of what I was supposed to cover. But I have to save your bundles. Thank you.